Okay, let's start. Hello everyone. Today I will discussing the GDP growth rate of Thailand and Vietnam over the past decade and how the trade relationship between these two countries has evolved. We particularly focus on Vietnam's export to Thailand. This analysis will help us understand how both countries have been affected by global economic events like the COVID-19 pandemic and how their economic relationship has been influenced by these trends. And here, what we're gonna cover today. So let's start it. The goal of the analysis is to compare the GDP growth trends of Thailand and Vietnam over the past decades. By doing this, we will explore the relationship between Vietnam's export and Thailand's GDP growth. Understanding these trends will help us see how different global events like recessions or recoveries affect trade between neighboring countries is essential because trade between the countries impacts their economies, especially in the wake of global disruptions. And now the data set one, we will discuss the Thailand GDP growth rate from 2010 and 2024. And let's begin with Thailand. If we look at Thailand's GDP growth rate from 2010 to 2024, we can see some important patterns. Between 2010 and 2019, Thailand's economy grew steadily. However, in 2020, the economy was hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, causing the significant dip to around minus 6.1%. This decline is a clear example of how global events like the pandemic can disrupt even the most stable economies. After this drop, Thailand experienced a slow recovery, but its economic growth rate has still been sluggish compared to its previous performance. This suggests that it will take time for the country to fully bounce back. And for the data set two of the Vietnam GDP growth rate from 2010 and to 2020. And now, as a developing country, Vietnam has shown remarkable resilience in its economic growth from 2010 to 2020. Vietnam's GDP growth remained stable even after the global finance crisis. But however, the pandemic hit Vietnam too, yet it recovered much quicker than Thailand. By 2021, Vietnam's GDP growth rate bounced back to almost 6%. This quick recovery showcased how Vietnam has been able to adapt and continue developing despite the challenges posed by COVID-19. This resilience is a strong indicator of Vietnam's potential for long-term growth. And next, the data set three. Vietnam's exports to Thailand from 2000 and 2020. Let's now talk about trade. Vietnam's export to Thailand has been increasing steadily over the years. Looking at the data from 2000 to 2020, we can see that Vietnam's export to Thailand reached a peak after the COVID-19 pandemic. This increase can be attributed to Vietnam's strong recovery and its growing position as an important trade partner in the region. But however, despite this increase, there is a forecasted trade deficit for Vietnam in 2025, meaning Vietnam will import more from Thailand than its exports. The trade imbalance will need to be managed in the coming years to maintain a balanced economic relationship. And for the dashboard visualization, looking at this dashboard, we can see direct relationship between the GDP growth rates of Thailand and Vietnam and the trade patterns between them. As Thailand's GDP growth slowed, Vietnam's quick recovery was reflected in the growth of its export to Thailand. This relationship shows us that economic growth in one country often influences trade with neighboring countries. Vietnam's growing export to Thailand are a sign of its increasing economic importance, but the projected trade deficit suggests that there are areas for improving in balancing trade between the two nations. And to conclude, both Thailand and Vietnam experienced significant disruption in 2020 due to the pandemic. However, Vietnam demonstrated a faster recovery, which allowed it to grow its export to Thailand. Despite this, the trade deficit projected for 2025 signals that Vietnam will need to manage its import more effectively in the future. And thank you for your attention. I hope this analysis have helped you better understand how global events influence economic growth and trade relationship.